Welcome to today's LX Views. We'll be riding through North End Charlotte, which is the area just north of the Inner Beltway and the Brookshire Expressway 277. We'll be riding through C.A.M.P North End. You can see it up on the right. First, there are these new apartment buildings. Those were installed in the last few years. We're going to take a less standard entrance, sort of a little bit of gravel riding up a abandoned set of railroad tracks that were that have some trails in them for walking. There are several thorns if you are going to try to ride this bike on your bicycle. It's a decent ride, particularly the next section. This section, like I said, has thorns. But yeah, so C.A.M.P stands for Charlotte Area Missile Plant. That's what it was used for in the middle of the 20th century. Prior to that, it was the Quartermaster's Depot, where they repaired typewriters, I guess, according to the history available online. And prior to that, it was the Great Depression, so it sat unused. And before the crash, it was a Model T, Model A plant for Ford. So they manufactured cars here for, I'm assuming, most of the Carolinas and other points in the Southeast as well. Great rail connections here in Charlotte, especially around the dawn of the 20th century. When I first moved to Charlotte, this area was totally abandoned, including this plant. It was all chained off. But you could see, I could see anyway, the potential just given the proximity to Uptown and the size. And it reminded me of the American Tobacco campus in Durham in some ways. It's a little bit different now. It's much different now. So I think development really started getting going in earnest right before the pandemic started. And it continued on throughout the pandemic. And now we can see several restaurants and event spaces surrounding us. Once we get off of this bloom field, which is a wonderful sort of wildflower field. It's amazing how fast nature reclaims. We can see nice place to hang out. So this is one of the areas. This is a place where Charlotte has allowed for open container walking, Savannah style. So you can get a drink in one of the restaurants, then walk to other restaurants, and go into another one. It's cool. It has. I haven't done it yet. I plan on doing it this weekend, if all goes well. And we'll get to it a little bit later. There's some features and activities for the kids, so it could be family friendly. It could also very much be a cool, hip place for 20-somethings to hang out as well. There's something for everybody here. I've been to corporate events in some of the large spaces. Being a former manufacturing space, it's cavernous, and there's just good space for everybody. We're going to continue down this gravel track. If you do, you can see this is a little more worn in, and I got better speed here. It was fun. It was short, but it was fun. Again, developed throughout the pandemic. It's continuing to develop, and there's a lot of stuff for the kids. And we've done family photos here previous years. I think in 22, we did photos here. It was great. We had all these wildflowers in the background, and they made for a nice backdrop for the whole family. It might have been 21. And it continues to expand. This area where we are now was sort of in 21 and 22 where all the features were. And every year it just seems to become more and more filled in. The apartments are definitely new, but they're great. I mean, I love how they've integrated them into the post-industrial landscape. It's a great reuse of infrastructure that is truly fantastic. And it reminds me growing up, I grew up next to an abandoned shipyard, or near an abandoned shipyard, that it had similar bones. Not sure if there were environmental considerations that prevented it from being reused in a way similar to C.A.M.P North End. But we can see here on the right, there's a cool little coffee and pastry shop that I will sometimes ride over to with the kids, and we'll have a nice breakfast. And it's a nice way for them to get out and experience their city and experience their culture. And you can see there's some seats and stuff coming up on the right. What I was looking for was, there's a little hill I wanted to ride down. I was being a little mischievous today. I was kind of riding my fixed gear bike a little hard, but I had to go up some stairs. You'll see that coming up. But you can see all of these buildings here, all the brick. The brick is such just a nice and calming color, the terracotta. It's very earthy. It feels to me very natural and inviting. And there's so much clay in the South. I'm not surprised they built everything out of brick. So here's this drop. You can see often that's where kind of the kids play when we do come here, and we'll get closer to that. But there are some exercise equipment that the kids will play on. And then there's this cool feature, which is what's luring us there this weekend. My older daughter has gotten into playing with Legos, and as has her little brother, because he wants to do everything she does. This is the steep hill. I took it sideways just to be a little cautious, but it still got squirrely on the back. It was still a little squirrely, but it's cool. I mean, it's great. These post-industrial landscapes where you can play on stuff like this, and it's still not so developed that you can. But looking on the left, you see that big building. Inside, I think occasionally, so I think all of those glass windows have been repaired. And inside, I feel like I've seen like rope lights, and it makes sort of a magical environment. There's the workout equipment that that I'll use sometimes, and I'll let the kids play on as well. There are climbing posts right there, and those bubbles. We jump from those bubbles on the ground, those rings, from bubble to bubble. We have a lot of fun there. It's a nice way to burn off energy in the morning. And then we're flying through this section here, but you can see on the left those Lego towers. I didn't want to ride my bike through where the kids were playing, but I wanted to capture it as well, so that's why I did that. And this is the sort of historic heart, the boiler yard, I guess is what it's called. I didn't turn down it, but we've been to various art events there. Various community groups have done great things for everyone to come together, and people from all over Charlotte, of all walks of life, to have a great experience in a nice common environment. So back there's where they have the Airstreams. They have some bars. They're a little bit, they were built at a time where I think like the concept they proved the concept. Let's put it that way. And I hope they benefit for it. But that's pretty much from what I've seen the whole site. I'm sure it extends further. I didn't want to go too far off the grid because I wanted to be respectful of the property, and I also had more ground to cover. But again, I got American Tobacco campus vibes here, and I'm sure that's what the investor or whoever, the buyers thought when they bought it almost a decade ago as well. But there's still lots of, even within this large main parcel, lots to develop. We can see on the left this large loading dock. I mean, I can only imagine how much volume could come in and out of this place. And it's connected to train tracks too on top of it. Like, that's an early 20th century dream come true. And there are so many places like this, so many facilities like this that just litter the whole East Coast and potentially the whole country, right? That we sort of forgot about, but are now undergoing transformation. And it's great to see. I mean, look at that location. You can see the skyline in the distance, and it looks like you just reach out and touch it. On the left, so now we're on, I'm assuming, a loading dock above the train tracks, which is probably a great place to either offload materials or load finished products. Now we're just using it for post-industrial purposes, which are a lot more fun to me. And we come down this ramp, and here we're going to turn off, and we're going to cut across to another part of North Charlotte. I was sort of just so I'm going to do slalom through the swerving, because again, this is the open container district, which is pretty cool. We'll definitely be checking that out this weekend is the plan. Not too crazy, because we'll have the family, but it'll be neat to grab a frozen cocktail on a hot night and go play Legos, hopefully in the setting sun, so it's not too strong. And just feeling the warmth radiate off of those bricks. It could be good, assuming it's not too hot. It's 30 Celsius, 32 Celsius. I think that's like 88, 90. That'll be comfy, especially at like 5:30, maybe even 6. don't want to stay too late. So I feel like the unofficial rule in Charlotte, from what I've observed, Charlotte, oh, look at that mid-century building on the right. That's beautiful. From what I've observed is that Charlotte's got a big drinking culture. We have a lot of breweries here. And it's, folks bring their families to the breweries. It's cool. I like it. And what I've observed is about 7 is when you're expected to take your kids home. You know, it's 7 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? And it better not be the brewery. Although we've kept the kids as late as 7:15, I feel like. It's tough this time of year too, because so Charlotte is pretty far west in the time zone, and this time of year when it's the solstice, the sun doesn't set until after 9. Not that the days are particularly longer, it's just the sun rises later and the sun sets later. And the wintertime, forget about it. The sun doesn't come up until after 7. So my daughter will be going to school in the dark this year. And that's going to be an adjustment for me because I'm a late riser, or have been historically anyway. Here's a neighborhood that we're riding through now, to Tryon Street. So where we were was Graham. That was an old state highway, and Tryon is the old federal highway. They're both parallel to train tracks. The train tracks along Graham, I think, eventually connect to the train tracks on Tryon later. The train tracks down Graham may or may not connect to the Gateway station that they're supposed to be building in Uptown. That's a project that starts, it stops, it starts, it stops, it starts, it stops. You know, I don't know what the story is with this. Here is a chicory field. So chicory is a plant that grows wild. And I don't know if it's native, but it grows, I guess it could be invasive. I don't know what it is. All I know is I love it. They have these blooms here, and I've grown it in my front yard. When you cut pieces off and bring them home, put them in a vase, various buds will flower for like the next 3 days. It's like a slow motion fireworks. So I just love seeing chicory. It's an ultraviolet. It's an unusual color, and I wanted to stop and just interact with this parcel here. There weren't any fences. I didn't see any no trespassing signs, so I figured I'd ride a little bit through the gravel. On the other side of those train tracks is North Davidson, the Mill District they're calling it, or maybe Villa Heights. It's the old North Charlotte. This site here, I don't know anything about, but again, it wasn't blocked off, so I didn't feel uncomfortable riding my bike here through the flowers. It's amazing just to see how nature, when left unchecked, will reclaim an area. I'm doing this all on a bicycle. I'm using my GoPro. I don't have a gimbal. It's just using their native image stabilization. It was amazing that it just did that. I think it used up a lot of battery, but I'm really pleased with how all this footage came out. It's so steady. I feel like if I were a stronger cycler, I could do chase videos and stuff with this setup. So, but here we can see we're over slab and stuff. So something was here. I don't know what was here, but something was here. And but now it's not. Just a bunch of plants, some gravel, and some slab. And growing up through the slab is nature. I wonder what's in those plants. So I've been reading that like various plants can withdraw nutrients and concentrate nutrients from the ground. And it makes me wonder if that's what they're doing, and if so, how can you put that to work to use an environmental solution? It's a fascinating question. I'll leave it for the researchers. So there's Uptown in the distance. Those towers are so fun to look at. And then there's a funky building, which I think is used as an event space. And across the very busy street is the rail yard, look up Queens Park, Charlotte, to see what some people have a vision for that. On the right was a thistle. So we're going to turn back around and look at it. I truly enjoy thistle plants. I first encountered a thistle plant by the Scaly Bark train station in South Charlotte prior to the gigantic development they installed there, which is so impressive. They call it Loso now. And it was this beautiful looking flower that had all of these spikes. And I liked how threatening it looked, but also how beautiful it looked. It was just like, it perfectly encapsulated what I would have expected to see, which is beauty in an environment where you had to keep your wits about you. And that's to me what a thistle represents. I'm growing a thistle now in my front yard in a pot. It was a wild thistle that I rescued. And I do that pretty much every year. But we're coming up on the end of our video. Here we are on Tryon Street. You can see some of the growth near the train station. That's pretty much all I've got. Check you later. Bye.